Between the Lines on Newstalk.
Well, you're very welcome back to the final part of today's Between the Lines programme with myself, Andrea Gilligan. We're continuing our discussion on what our daily working lives might look like post-COVID-19. We're asking what changes will you start to see in terms of your home and working environment. Well, joining us to discuss how the travel sector might be impacted by all of this is Eoghan Corry, who's the editor of Travel Extra. Eoghan, what sort of changes do you see within the travel and transport sector post-COVID-19?
Things won't be the same. The question is what sort of world we're looking at. Will we be taking to the skies? Will we be travelling in the same numbers that we were before? If you look back at the Ash Cloud 2010, people who had booked independently, they gravitated towards travel agencies afterwards because they realised the dangers that when you're caught, there is no recompense. There is a suggestion that some of the airlines won't be around. That was more emphatic in the early stages of the crisis before all of Europe's airlines started running to governments for state aid. But one of the things I would expect as soon as this begins to clear is a raft of seat sales. If some listeners would remember back to 2009, September, October, November, Ryanair ran €1 seat sales. You paid €1 to get onto the aircraft. That's the level. Like, I know it's 20 would be the cheapest you can get on a Ryanair. That's the level of seat sale they used to shake off the last recession, and they won't be alone. The Ryanair in particular have a strategy that they want to be first mover back to the skies. They've been keeping their aircraft certified and their pilots certified so they can get in early and catch the pent-up demand for travel that will still be there.
So do you see a situation, Eoghan, that once the restrictions have been lifted, airlines will immediately start advertising price and seat sales? But do you see people willing to book that holiday immediately?
That's the big question. How great has the trust been shaken? The trust may have been shaken by the difficulty getting refunds, for instance. But what we saw in previous instances when there was a real fear there, 9/11 would have been a real fear that once the price comes down to a certain level, people do travel in large numbers. It was about 6 months after 9/11, they took to the skies in big numbers. It's amazing how many people who are terrified of flying for €250 aren't as terrified when the price comes down to €50.
I'm just interested, though, in whether or not people will actually, holidaymakers will want to go to some of the countries, the real kind of tourist holiday spots, the likes of Spain, the likes of Italy, that have been so affected by COVID-19.
That's really the point. You've hit the nail on the head there. The real issue is what will be open. Is there anywhere to go? And how quickly that will happen. Obviously, Italy and Spain are going through a terrible time. Portugal less so. The Canary Islands have looked for some sort of, they're looking for some sort of escape from the lockdown because their numbers aren't as high as mainland Spain. These are the places we go in large numbers, particularly in winter time. And I do think that July, August is probably written off at this stage. September, October is when the aviation industry would like to see people returning in numbers, but it does really depend on if there's somewhere to go. And the other thing really is the question of when you get there, how big is the devastation in the closures of restaurants, hotels, things like that, because some of these resorts are going through a crisis for the second summer in a row, having gone through the Thomas Cook debacle where they didn't get paid at all for last summer. The whole nature of where we go is going to be changed, and how we get there is going to be changed.
Talk us through some of the difficulties as well, Eoghan, that people are currently facing in terms of trying to get refunds, holidays that have maybe been booked through, some of the kind of third-party sites where they may not necessarily be booked directly with the airline. Like, how problematic are these situations at the minute for people?
Third-party sites bring their own set of problems because the airline sometimes don't have your details to communicate with you, to tell you that your flight is cancelled and to offer you your money back or a voucher, which is what a lot of the airlines are trying to apply at the moment. Even directly booked with the airline, normal rules don't apply. The law is very, very clear. You are entitled to your full refund 14 days after a flight is cancelled, if the flight is cancelled by the airline. And airlines have not been doing that. Ryanair is one of the few that has. Aer Lingus came a little bit later to the table. They were offering 110% vouchers for people, and some of the American and Middle Eastern airlines were saying, here's a voucher for 12 months. At the end of it, if you haven't used it, you can pay back. You can see what the airlines are doing, buying time. But the reality is the situation in a lot of households has changed dramatically in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So people aren't that interested in vouchers in the numbers that they would have been in before. So it's all in play because Brussels is being lobbied to change the rule. EU 261 still applies in law. The Package Holiday Directive still applies in law, but the Package Holiday Directive and the EU 261 were drawn up for very different circumstances. And there's a whole separate set of problems for travel agents. They were operating a very, very tight margin. They've taken money off clients and they have passed the money on to the airline. And now the airline is saying we're not giving it back while the clients are looking for it back. And while you can, if you're running airlingus.com, you can stay well clear of angry people. But if you're a travel agent in town in Ireland, your clients are your friends and your neighbours and everybody around you.
So at the moment, the airlines, if you're due to fly with any airline here in Ireland to Spain or wherever you're going on, for instance, say the 1st of May, once the airline sends you out the email to say that flight is, going to be cancelled in 14 days' time, they have to offer you a 100% full refund. Is that right?
100% full refund by law. What Aer Lingus have done is it's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle to find the link, but they always they try to coax you with the voucher first. That's 110% of the fare value. Ryanair have been allowing people to fill out the form, but they've also been emailing them to say that they're under such pressure paying people back that it will take a little bit longer than normal. That's completely acceptable. The Commission of Aviation Regulation says the laws still apply. What is interesting is we're expecting this week, it didn't happen, but perhaps next week, a ruling from the Department of Transport whether vouchers are now acceptable instead of cash refunds. 5 European countries have already done that, and there's a strong suggestion that Britain and Germany will join them in the coming week, and at a European level it's also being lobbied. So all the laws that are in place are for normal times. These are not normal times, and it's quite clear if the airlines have to cough up a lot of cash, all that level of bookings, for one of them, Lufthansa, which does a lot of long haul, it's 3.5 billion they have to pay out. So the airlines can't survive that level of pressure on their cash, especially when they're not getting any new bookings and they're going to spend the next 3 months and maybe the next 6 months with a net outflow every month.
And this thing of offering a voucher, I mean, I think one of the concerns people have about taking the voucher is that they just don't know. There's uncertainty as to whether or not, if they take a voucher to use it, that they'll be able to take that holiday within that time frame. Is there a deadline on when you have to use this voucher?
The voucher deadlines vary from airline to airline. Aer Lingus, which is the one most people will be familiar with, is 5 years. It's quite generous. Aer Lingus and Ryanair are both well funded. They're sitting on a lot of cash. IAG, which owns Aer Lingus, has a lot of cash. Some of the other airlines that are offering you're not sure, are they going to be around, how long they're going to be around. Some of the tour operators, are they going to be around? But what we've seen is that governments have changed the laws. There is a very direct law at EU level saying you cannot give state aid to an airline. And one of the first things that happened was Alitalia was renationalised and 500 million put into it by the Italian government. The Americans are putting 25 billion into their airlines. So mainstream airlines are going to be around to use the voucher because governments are coming to save them and cover that cash crunch that they're all getting. Air France and KLM both getting aid from the French and the Dutch government, and Lufthansa have done a deal with the German government. TUI, the big tour operator, have done a deal for 1.8 billion with the German government for a guaranteed loan. When you come down the line, down the food chain to smaller tour operators, and is the voucher, how valuable is the voucher if the tour operator itself is fighting for its existence?
I'm interested, Owen, in the kind of changes that you sort of foresee in the across the travel sector. I mean, I'm wondering, will people be less likely to maybe take cruises now in the next couple of months? Will they maybe go for more villa or apartment style rental or houses rather than maybe, staying in a sort of a big hotel or staying in a big apartment complex, whereas we've seen previously when there's a lockdown or a case of an outbreak, the whole place is shut down. I'm just interested in how people's behaviours might change in terms of the kind of options they might go for now.
Yeah, the cruise sector is about 35,000 people in Ireland every year. It's been disproportionately hit. It'll take a lot longer to get back. They are well funded. I suspect they'll buy their way back with very big fleet sales. They run their cruise ships at a loss as they did during the recession. And that would probably get some traction back, because a lot of cruise clientele, they don't go do any other type of holiday. They love their cruises and they keep going on them. But it really has been, in terms of publicity between Ruby Princess and the Zaandam, the Holland America Zaandam, they have been, they've been almost the worst case scenario crises stories that have been emerging from this whole. The other thing that you mentioned is, when people go to smaller places, the more rural places, yes, there'll probably be a tendency for that away from the big hotels. But again, price will determine. And what we'll see is the travel industry and the hospitality industry coaxing people back with prices. See how quickly they can get people moving again, and they get over that breach of trust that people have. There's two ways the ball could bounce on the whole beds and access situation. We could have a situation with fewer airlines and less risk. When they've lost a lot of money, they wouldn't be taking risks. That means the options for places to go will be cut. The regional airports, on our side, the likes of the Knox. On the other side, the smaller airports like the Bilbao's and the Santiago de Compostela and Vigo and places like that, Brindisi in Italy, they won't be served by airlines who are now have lost a lot of money and don't want to take any risk. The second thing that could happen, though, is that instead of reducing that capacity and forcing the price up where we all pay a lot more for each flight, it could go the other direction, that the number of aircraft that, for instance, Ryanair have, they've 300 aircraft. You have to put them somewhere. They will do everything they can to get people to back into those aircraft with seat sales. The old adage that put the seats in the sky and they will come. That's worked for Ryanair down the years. Now it's worked to help them through. They've grown. They've actually thrived in the 9/11 recession and in the global financial crisis. Whether they can thrive in the coming out of this is another question altogether. But the evidence from China is people return to the skies. Pretty spectacular numbers, very, very quickly, as soon as clearance was there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, will the staycation numbers see a big rise this year here at home?
That could happen, and there's other things could happen with Spain, and if we keep our nose clean on this, which we're doing a pretty good job of. The American airlines will be looking at their transatlantic routes. They'll be very reluctant to put aircraft back into Spain and Italy. It's a very short run over and back to Ireland from New York for the East Coast. So we could actually see a little bit of a holiday boom, particularly if the American airlines put a lot of capacity that would be due elsewhere into Ireland. There are upsides to that. We're seen as a little bit distant from the major crisis areas, and people, particularly North Americans, which is a market of about 2 million people a year to us, choose Ireland over Italy and Spain. The other issue for the staycation industry is how many of the hotels will survive through this, because they're facing all sorts of other battles, which, apart from the very obvious one of holding on to staff and closing for a period during the lockdown, they're facing the insurance companies telling them that disruption cover doesn't apply, or they're looking for get-out clauses on disruption cover. So they're facing a lot of stuff that could close them down, and obviously they depend very, very heavily at this time of the year on the wedding business outside of Dublin, which is ground to a halt.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. The editor of Travel Extra, Eoghan Corry, my thanks to you for joining us. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. If you've missed any of the programme, you can download the podcast on our website at newstalk.com or on the Go Loud app. My thanks to the production team, Simon Keane and Stephen Jordan. I'll be back again with Breakfast Briefing on Monday morning from 6 and with Between the Lines this time next week. But for me, Andrea Gilligan, have a good day.